The coolant seal started leaking at 0217, which meant I was already in the crawl space behind junction node 14. When the Keth-Vaari crew walked through the main concourse doors, I know the exact time because I logged it. Relay Station Orveth-9 runs on a tight maintenance cycle, and third shift is mine. Has been for 11 years. I know every seal, every pressure coupling, every section of conduit that's been patched twice, and will need a third before the quarter's out. I know which sections of the maintenance tunnels run parallel to the concourse floor and which vents carry sound cleanly from the public areas up into the crawl space. I heard them come in, 5 of them by the boot cadence, mottled gray, by the slap pattern. Keth-Vaari move with a rolling weight distribution, 2 of their 3 locomotive limbs touching down in sequence, the third trailing. I've worked stations on 4 systems. You learn the sound of species the way you learn the sound of equipment. Some things you just know from years of being in the same walls. They announce themselves loudly, which is either confidence or nerves. In my experience, for a crew of 5 hitting a third shift relay hub with 12 civilians in the concourse and a skeleton staff of 2, it was confidence. They had numbers, they had the timing right, and they had the exits. The civilian at the refreshment counter, Pole, older Turasi male, buys the same pressed grain tea every third shift, tips well, made a sound I'd classify as compliance. Smart, kept working on the seal. The first rule of maintenance work, finish the job in front of you. A leaking coolant seal at junction node 14 will have the node 12 secondary loop running hot by Zoo 610, and if the morning shift supervisor finds a hot loop on the report I filed, that's my name next to the gap. 11 years, clean record. I was not going to let 5 Keth-Vaari syndicators ruin my maintenance log. I had the ulti seal out in 4 minutes. The new one takes 8 to seat properly. You have to hold even pressure on the collar ring while the compound sets, which means 2 hands occupied and nowhere to be for 8 minutes. I held pressure and listened. They were running a straight grab and lock, course valuables, passenger luggage from the transit dock, whatever was in the station's small commercial safe behind the refreshment counter. Standard third shift relay job. Low staff, no security rotation, docking traffic too sparse to trigger a response beacon in time. Somebody had done their research. The Keth-Vaari don't freelance. This was contracted work, which meant the 5 on the floor were professionals. The thing about professionals is they check the rooms. The access panel at the base of the Junction 14 crawl space is in a service corridor off the main concourse behind a door marked maintenance. No passenger access. One of the 5 tried the handle at minute 6. The door was locked, is standard. I heard him move on, the compound set at minute 8. I pulled my hands back, ran a pressure check, holding, and started breaking down my kit. I had 1 more seal to replace before the end of my shift, junction node 22, which is on the far side of the concourse. I pulled up the tunnel schematic on my wrist display and routed through the east maintenance spine, away from the concourse floor. I came out through the node 22 access panel, into the same service corridor, different end. The door there opens inward, and I pushed it to 3 centimeters before I saw the pair of legs in the corridor. One of the crew, stationed at the corridor junction to watch both service doors. I pulled the door back to 1 centimeter and stood there. The second rule of maintenance work, don't create new problems. Going back through the tunnel to the node 14 end and waiting out the crew was an option. Orveth-9's response time on a distress ping is 19 minutes minimum. I'd checked it twice over the years. The way you check things you hope you never need. I could log as a distress ping from the tunnel, seal the crawl space door, and wait. That was the clean option. Pole was out there. So was Yenna, the young Turasi girl who clerks the transit desk on third shift, 22 years old, first posting off her home system. I've brought her pressed grain tea from the counter. On the nights when Pole is running low stock, she tips worse than Pole, but she stacks her cup in the recycler without being reminded, which I appreciate more than the tip. My kit bag down quietly in the tunnel, kept the hand torch and the seal driver, and pushed the door open. The guard in the corridor was mottled gray, large, wearing the kind of light tactical vest that means you're expecting frightened civilians, not resistance. He turned when he heard the door. He had time to register that I was not a frightened civilian before I closed the distance. The seal driver is 32 centimeters of hardened composite with a weighted grip end for torque. I've used it every third shift for 11 years. I know how it moves. He went down without making significant noise. I caught him before he cleared the floor, which is the part people always find surprising. But I grew up on Class 19. You learn to catch things before they land because, on a Class 19 world, a loud noise at the wrong moment is an invitation to something larger than you to come investigate. Old habit. I zip-tied his wrists with his own restraints. They carry them on a belt clip, which I find professionally considerate, and propped him against the corridor wall. The remaining four were in the concourse. I came through the service door at the concourse's east end, which puts you behind the refreshment counter, and I came through it the way I come through every door in this station. Like I belong there, 'cause I do. One closest to the counter saw me at 4 meters. He started giving me the speech. I've heard variations of it on 2 others over the years. The one about how if you cooperate nothing happens to you. It's a reasonable speech. I don't hold it against them. I wasn't in a cooperative frame of mind. I had a Node 22 seal to replace before 0600, and a bruise forming on my left forearm from the corridor guard's elbow, and Yenna was zip-tied to a passenger bench with her hands behind her and an expression I did not like. The remaining 4 took approximately 4 minutes. I had the torch and the seal driver and 11 years of walking every centimeter of this station in the dark, and the Keth-Vaari crew had a concourse they'd occupied for 20 minutes and a floor plan they'd studied from the outside. Is a difference. The 4th one tried to make it back to the concourse doors. I let him get almost there. The concourse doors on Orveth-9 require a palm authorization to open from inside during a security event, and I had tripped the security event flag when I came through the service door. His palm didn't have authorization. Mine did. Took my time walking over. I zip-tied all 4 to the structural support column near the center of the concourse, the load-bearing one, not the decorative one. Using the restraints from their own belts. There were enough for the purpose. Freed Pole and Yenna and the other 10 civilians, verified no serious injuries, and told them the response team would be on station in approximately 11 minutes. Then I went back to the Node 22 crawl space and replaced the seal. Incident report took 14 minutes to file. Standard form checkbox fields. A narrative section I kept to 2 paragraphs. Equipment used in the response. 1 hand torch, 1 seal driver. Personal injuries sustained. Contusion left forearm, minor no treatment required. Property damage, none. Maintenance tasks completed during incident window. Junction node 14 coolant seal, replaced. Junction node 22 coolant seal, placed. The response team supervisor looked at me for a long moment when she reviewed the report on station. "You're the 3rd shift maintenance tech," she said. 11 years, I said. She looked at the 5 Keth-Vaari secured to the structural column, then back at me. She started to ask something and then seemed to decide against it. I understood the impulse. Some questions, once you get the answer, change the way you walk through a room. She was going to have to walk through Orveth-9 on a regular basis. Same as me, and she'd already figured out that the most dangerous thing in this station had been in the maintenance tunnels the whole time. I clocked out at 0447, 10 minutes early. First time in 11 years.